Welcome, this is Joshua Benoist in Autodesk Product Support. This is video 1 where we're going to talk about labels and property sets and how to change their precision of the units. So, for example, in when you're labeling a duct, the top of duct label, the bottom of duct label, it reads off in feet and inches. Well, oftentimes feet and inches is not precise enough. You need it down to the nearest eighth of an inch. Our labels are not set up that way by default out of the box. We've got labels for duct and pipe and cable tray and conduit, and they all work exactly the same way. So, we're going to use duct as an example, and I'll show you how to do it with duct, and then you can apply it to pipe or tray or conduit if you need to. So let's move on. So I have AutoCAD MEP 2011 here, and we're just going to draw a duct. And I've got to be in the right workspace. Okay. So, the height is 1 foot. I'm going to make the height 2 foot just so that from the center line of the duct up is a foot, center line of the duct down is a foot, and we'll set the elevation at 2 foot dash 6.25 inches. That way we get kind of a quarter of an inch in there, and that way we can demonstrate this a little bit easier. So I'm going to draw a duct segment, and we'll zoom in on that. Okay. So let's go and label these. I'm going to go to the HVAC tags. So we've got the bottom of duct label and the top of duct label. So I'm just going to tag the top of duct, put it here, and then the property sets come up. And so you've got the bottom of duct calculation where it's calculating the value, and what the label actually runs off of is this one that doesn't end in calc right there. Let's expand this out just a little bit more so that you can read it. So there's the calculation, and this is what the label displays. We're doing the top of duct one, so here's top of duct. It's done the same way. The calc, it actually does the calculation, and this one is what the label uses, the actual property that the label uses. So I'm just going to say OK, and there's your top of duct. So we can also label this with the bottom of duct. So I'm going to put that there, and so we're doing the bottom of duct right now, and it's going to use those two here. We don't have a label on the tool palette for center of duct, but you can see here that we are calculating those values for center of duct, and it's not that hard to create a label for the center of duct. So I think we already did this once. Yep, so I'm just going to delete that. Alright, so you can see that this goes to 1 foot 6 inches, but our duct is the center line of that is at 2 foot 6.5 inches, or 6.25 inches. So that's not showing up in the labels. Well, you can go to the Manage tab, open up Style Manager, go to expand on documentation objects. So let's look at property set definitions briefly. Duct object is the name of the property set, the set of properties. So you'll find the center of duct there, the bottom of duct 2 there, and the top of duct here. You know, if we had pipes, it'd be the pipe object. So you got bottom of piped, the center of pipes, and the top of pipes. If we had conduit, here's conduit object, bottom of conduit, blah blah blah, and cable tray object, you know, here's your bottom of tray, top of tray, center of tray. Alright, so we're doing ducts. Let's come here. And we're using these two. They're both formulas, and you need to understand kind of what do these do. So the formula for the calc itself is the location Z. Location Z is always reported off of your connector. Well, the connector is on your duct at the center line of the duct. So location Z is always reporting the center line elevation of your duct. So if you want the bottom of that, you've got to take your height and divide it by 2, and then take your center line minus half your height. Some people don't like insulation thickness in here. You know, when they're installing ductwork in the field, oftentimes they are measuring to the bottom of the steel rather than the insulation. So some people will actually come in there and delete this so that it does not take the insulation into account. Not exactly part of this customer's problem with the precision, but it's just a tidbit of information to have. So anyway, that's how this calculation works. Now, it gives us a sample result here. We're using data. You know, the value here is 30.25 inches. And the format is unformatted. The height happens to be unit distance inches to the tenths. So we need the value here. This is the input here. So we're inputting location Z as a raw number in decimals. Height happens to come in using this format. That's okay. It's okay to mix these formats like that. The end result needs to be in a decimal format for the, just for the calculation part. So over here, the format of our property for the calculation itself So the bottom of duct calculation is exporting the calculated value as unit distance feet inches, no commas. And then that value comes into here, where basically we take the result of the calculation and just tack on these letters in front of it. So when we get to a label, the label actually says bottom of duct colon 1 foot 6 inches. Okay. It's inputting it here as distant feet inches no comma. So there's two things we can do. We can either change this and choose something else, or go find this unit distant feet inches and change the precision of that itself. So go to property data formats here, and in here you've got unit distant feet inches no comma. If we go to formatting, this is basically how we're formatting the letters and numbers. We're telling it to look like architectural, feet inches. We can change this right here to be to the nearest eighth of an inch. That's one way of doing it. But there's this data format, it's used in a lot of other property sets too. So we may not want to literally use that. We might want to come here and say copy and say paste. Change the name precision to the nearest eighth. I'm not sure if we can use a 1/8 in here or not in the name. Yeah, it doesn't like those as an invalid character, so it might just be easier to annotate this a different way. So we'll say precision 0.125. Alright, and it's at 1/8 of an inch. So here you can see the result is feet-inches to the nearest eighth. Beautiful, that's what we want. So now all we have to do is go back and set our calculation here to export the value to the nearest eighth. Say apply. We're not done. We need to go into and just open this one up and make sure that it's inputting, that this did change, that it's inputting the value to the nearest eighth. And notice that in our sample result it is. So that's good. I'm going to say OK. I'm going to say OK here. This does not update yet. And I think there's a couple things we have to do. I think we have to delete them and recreate them. But just to make sure, I'm going to go to the view. And I'm going to say regenerate our model. And I'm going to select all. Okay, so we don't have to delete them. That's good to know. And by regenerating the model, it rethinks all these calculations. And now we have our answer to the nearest foot, to the nearest 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to take this video one step further and show one other thing, just a good tidbit of information. So we've solved this problem for the original customer. Feel free to stop the video if you want. What I'm going to do is go back in here into the property set definitions for Duct object, and I'm going to come in here and edit this so that it takes insulation into account, and you can toggle it on and off in the property sets. So before I do this, what I want to do is create a manual property definition. Insulation toggle. And I'm going to change the type to say it's a true-false statement. And I'm going to set the default to false.